What's up, YouTube? I'm Robert, and this is the biker channel, B1. Today, we are on the I don't know what number episode. I think it is 18th episode of BiKER Bar. Appreciate everybody being out here today. Wrapping up the holiday weekend, so I'm sure that you guys are all just itching to go back to work tomorrow, so you get one last run at having a little bit of freedom, and I appreciate you guys taking the time to spend it with me. First off, I need support. Please help me stay alive. No, I'm just kidding. I do need support though. And the way that this channel and the way that this podcast continues to go and to be funded is by the people on Patreon. So if you have been thinking about it, maybe swing by patreon.biker.com, or you could actually go to patreon.com/biker, B1KER, and take a look there. There's a couple of different levels that you can do. One is $1 a month. One of them is $5 a month. So it's up to you. You want to buy me a beer once a month, or you want to buy me a beer once a year. So either way it works. Also, you can check out shop.biker.com. This awesome hat for those of you guys that can see it. Ooh, look, I'm like Vanna. If you're listening to this at home, I'm doing kind of like what the guys did in Superman whenever they were stuck in that little glass thing floating through space, like, I'm stuck in here. And I also have a sick ass hat on, so you can stop by the shop.biker.com and pick one of those up if you'd like. Moving on from that, so who do we have tonight? Tonight we have Josh from Daily MTB Rider. I had to say that and picture it at the same time, otherwise I was gonna fuck it up. So Josh is here, and his channel he actually started a while after me and has now just rubbed my nose in the dirt with his sub count. So Josh, you want to go ahead and tell us about what your channel is and what you're doing over there?
Yeah, thanks Rob for inviting me onto the BiKER Bar. I'm so stoked to finally be here. Like Robert said, my channel is the Daily Mountain Bike Rider, or like Robert said, Daily MTB Rider, or if you're Robert, you can call it the MTB Daily Mountain something. Anyway, so that's my channel. Yeah, I started just a little over a year ago, and I started my channel just to make just kind of how-to videos and talking about mountain bikes and gears and everything else, gear. And now, really the channel's kind of evolved. So I do some POV writing. I still do a lot of how-tos. I do a lot of experiments and comparisons, and I just do everything because I love mountain biking and I create content that I want to watch, and people seem to enjoy it. So yeah.
So you are based out of Bellingham, Washington, right?
Yeah, which is basically like as far northwest as you can get in Washington before you hit Canada. So people say I'm Canadian, which is very hurtful, because I am an American, 100%.
I don't know about that. You are pretty close to the So you're not from there though, are you?
No, well, kind of. I actually grew up about an hour and a half south in a suburb called Bothell. It's a suburb of Seattle. Seattle's pretty big as far as the metropolitan area. And yeah, I grew up down there, and mountain biking was not really a thing as much. Whereas in Bellingham, mountain biking is an everyday name. Like everybody knows it.
Yeah, it seems like in Bellingham, it's kind of like kids are born with bikes. They just come out like, ooh, there's a carbon bike and it's a boy.
Yeah, and when kids are born here, because my son was born here, they give him the little hat and the little swaddler blanket and just a small piece of carbon. They just put that in the bottles, so that way they crave it, from that point on for the rest of the day.
That makes sense. That totally makes sense.
Yeah.
So how did you get from an hour south of there? I think if I remember correctly from talking to you, that you kind of bounced around a little bit before you got back up to Bellingham.
Yeah, it was a ping pong machine. Ping pong? That's not right. Pinball machine. Basically, I grew up in Bothell. I went to school down in Portland, Oregon. Then I was there. I did community college in my local hometown, and then went and did that for 2 years.
How'd you like Portland?
Portland is like the zoo. Everybody loves going to the zoo. Like, you get to see the animals. They're so different and weird. But then if you have to sleep there, you realize that there's a bunch of crap that goes along with it. And that was Portland, right?
Portland is like one of my favorite cities to visit. Like, I couldn't live there, but I love going there. Like, it's just really cool vibe, and there is good riding around there. I don't know, were you riding at that point?
No, I wasn't. And there is some good riding. Bend, Oregon, which is pretty far south from there, is really good. But yeah, Portland has some places. I think you have to go east a little bit.
Yeah, well, I actually rode west of Portland too, out in there's like a big OHV park over there that I did a ride in. I actually ridden there a couple of times. And then I've also ridden around, Vancouver, the one that's there, not the one that's up by you. And like in that kind of like out towards like Mount St. Helens, some trail systems out that way. And so, no, I mean, there's a lot in Oregon. I think that part of Oregon is really cool too, because the ground is like really like kind of like a tacky, loamy kind of, I guess it's probably a lot like where it is where you're at. And when I went to Bend just recently, which you mentioned also, Bend was like completely different. I was expecting that same like kind of soil in Bend, but it wasn't the case. Have you ridden Bend?
No, but I know a ton of people who have, and they say it's super, super dry. Was it dry when you were there?
Yeah, it was a lot like Tahoe. It reminded me of Tahoe a lot, like super kind of sandy and dry. But it wasn't granite everywhere, so I don't know what was making the soil that kind of sandy mess, but it was.
Yeah, and it snows up there in the winter, and I lived in Portland, and as you'll hear about my journey, there's so many sad stories of where I've lived, and yet how I didn't ride there. So
you're like all the meccas, and I didn't ride there.
Yeah, it wasn't as bad as like I was in the middle of Utah and I didn't ride mountain bikes, but it was pretty close. So yeah, I was in Portland for 2 years. Then I moved back to my hometown for it was probably about a year. And that's when I got into mountain biking. I've told the story on my channel, but a lot of people haven't heard it. A couple of my friends, we were over to a friend's house for dinner. They were talking about, hey, I'll see you tomorrow. Yeah, we'll load up the bikes. And I'm like, what are you doing? And they both look at each other and they look at me kind of like, you're not going to get it, dude. And they're like, we're going mountain biking. And so they were going to a place called Duthie Hill. Have you heard of Duthie, Rob?
The name sort of rings a bell, but I feel like I'm being set up for failure here because
no, you're not. Basically, Duthie Hill is in Issaquah, Washington. It's east of Seattle. It's like everybody's favorite place to go in Seattle because it's a little like skills park, so you can learn how to jump or drop, and there's not elevation. It's very flat, so you're not tired, and you can do a bunch of like super small loops. So anyway, I went there with them, and that's where I kind of got the bug. I mean, I wouldn't say I got the bug for mountain biking. I thought mountain biking was really cool, and I started doing it. But a couple months later, I moved to Phoenix, Arizona, and I brought my bike with me, but I lived in Phoenix for a year and a half and didn't ride my mountain bike once.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And
that's probably the place that my favorite ride that I've done on my channel so far is still South Mountain in Phoenix.
Yeah, South Mountain, and to be honest, like, in a lot of people, especially you, knowing where you live, Rob, being there, a lot of people are going to say, what a dummy. The idea of driving an hour to go ride my mountain bike was like, I couldn't get over that idea.
Yeah.
It just, to me, that was like an insurmountable distance. Like,
right.
I was like, man, 2 hours driving. There's so many other things I could do in that time.
It's like taking a flight to New York City for a cup of coffee or something like that.
Exactly.
Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and for me, like living in Washington, like you can drive 10 minutes and ride your mountain bike anywhere. And now here where I live in Bellingham, I can ride my bike 8 minutes and be at the trailhead. So yeah, I lived there for a year and a half, and I went to Sedona multiple times and never rode my bike. Which in hindsight, I'm like, man, if I could go back in time, I would slap myself in the face so many times and say, go ride Sedona.
Yeah. I was down there just earlier this year for the first time. And I'll tell you what, that's probably one of the most picturesque places I've ever been. Like, you can stand anywhere in the city, and just every direction you look looks like a postcard. Like, it's just really beautiful,
Yeah, and it's nuts. I don't know if you probably drove over there, right?
Yeah, I did.
But you drive north from Phoenix, and it's like highway and cactuses, and it's beautiful, like, absolutely. And then you like round a corner, and there's like a visitor station, and then all of a sudden it's like the gates of like Mother Nature open up, and you're like, oh my goodness, like, this is ridiculous. If anybody hasn't been there, just Google Sedona, and your mind will be blown. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it is definitely definitely a sight to see. That's for sure. So you were there in Phoenix, you said, for a year and a half, and then you took off from there.
Yeah, so I basically, I left from there. Me and my wife moved to Bellingham for my job, and we moved in, and I still had my mountain bike from Phoenix. Hadn't ridden it in a long time, and people were like, hey, if you ride bikes, then Bellingham is like the place you have to do it. And I kind of heard that, and I thought, yeah, okay, like I understand you. And I was actually looking at my phone of how long it took me from when I lived here until I actually rode. And it wasn't that long. I think it was like 3 weeks. And I went out for my first time, got incredibly lost like multiple times, but fell in love like almost instantly. And yeah, it's kind of been smooth sailing ever since then.
Did you ride bikes when you were a kid?
Yeah. So I rode BMX bikes. Like my dad, when I was 10 years old, I remember I had like just a junky Walmart bike. And I don't know why my dad every now and then gets on kicks of like super cool stuff. So we went to the bike shop and bought everybody in the family a bike. And he got me, it was a red, white, and blue free agent BMX bike, which I don't think they make those anymore. But I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I am the coolest kid in the world right now. Like my dad just spent like $350 on a bike. And I just like got hooked so quickly. And oh gosh, maybe 5 minutes from my parents' house. They still live there, and I go back there sometimes and reminisce. There's like a little like it's power lines, and so you can't build under it. And so it's not that big, but there was a bunch of dirt jumps. And so that was in between my house and school. So I would ride my bike to school every day. And then right when school got out, I was the first kid out of the classroom. I'd jump on my BMX bike and I would go to the jumps and I would stay there until my mom came home, which was like 5 o'clock. And I would just loop those jumps over and over and over. And I loved riding my bike, like from an early age.
Yeah. I think a lot of mountain bikers, I don't meet many of them that didn't actually ride when they were younger. I think that's part of it, is that it like kind of pulls that that childhood love or that sense of freedom or whatever it is that you get out of it as being a kid, and it kind of brings that back. And I think that's why, I think that's why a lot of guys like dig it the way that they do. At least for me, it was something like, there's like guys in school that were like really good at football or whatever, and like just like more traditional sports. And biking was something that I was always just good at. Like that was one of those things I was good at naturally. I mean, I'm not like pro good, but it was like something that like that I was decent at. You know what I mean? And I think that I just really enjoyed it. It was like you said, when I was younger, it was like ride around and hit these little jumps around town and stuff like that. And then got into mountain biking. So your buddies got you into it when you ran out that first time? Were you on like borrowing somebody's bike or? No,
dude. So we were talking and they were like, I was like, hey, can I come with you guys? And, they hesitated. They're like, do you even have a bike? And I'm like, my dad has a bike. Once again, I said my dad would like get on kicks.
Right.
He tore his ACL. My dad was into snowmobiling for a time. He had a boat, sold the boat, bought snowmobiles. He got really into snowmobiling, like souped up his Polaris 800, whatever. My sister T-boned him out on a ride, tearing his ACL in his knee. So my dad had surgery and got this great idea. I'm going to buy a bike because that's going to help my knee recover. So he went and bought a hardtail Trek in, oh gosh, it was probably 2006 with disc brakes and, front suspension. And he was like, this is the coolest bike. And he never rode it. So my friends were like, do you have a bike? I was like, yeah, my dad's got a Trek. Like, it's awesome. And they kind of like, well, okay. So I went to my dad's house, stole his bike, pumped up the tires and, wiped the dust off. And they both had, oh gosh, I think one of my friends had like a Trek full suspension bike because he worked at a bike shop in Arizona. My other friend just got into it, and so he had a Specialized camber. I knew nothing about bikes. All I knew was 2 suspensions were better than 1. That was the verbiage I used, right? Good. I didn't know like they probably both had XC bikes. Anyway, so I showed up, and the best part was we started riding, and right in like the main area at Duthie Hill, there's like 4 drop-offs, and they go from like little up to biggest.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at it and I'm like, I could probably go off that big one. And so I just went for it and jumped off the big one. And they both looked at me like, all right, dude, I think you're better than both of us. Let's go ride the trails. And basically I just jumped anything I saw because that's what I did as a kid. And I was always fine.
Right.
And so it was super funny because I was the guy with the kind of little bit older. It was actually a pretty nice bike. And they were in the nice bikes and I was the one leading them or towing them into things.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. Yeah. Some of that stuff just doesn't go away, right?
Yeah, it's almost like riding a bike. Bad analogy. Never mind.
It's funny. There was a bunch of stuff that I did without hesitation when I was younger, and I don't do that anymore. And I think it's just really comes down to like, I don't know, somewhere along the line, one of those screws that was a little loose when I was younger got tightened up or something, you know?
Well, when you say younger, what do you mean? Like, when did that switch happen for you?
Well, I took a break from riding bikes for about 10 years. So whenever I got back into it, I just didn't. I mean, I always rode pretty hard, but I think that like there's just just a level of when I was younger, there was a lot more of those kind of like fuck it type moments. You know what I mean? And maybe it's having kids, maybe it's, being worried about being able to go to work or whatever it is, but definitely not as quick to try something as I was when I was younger. But I think the other thing too is, I mean, for a good period of time, I think I was still riding a lot harder than I do now, but I had my fork fail and because of that, I had a AC separation in my shoulder. And that really just put kind of like the fear in me where I'm just way, way more conservative than I ever was before.
Do you still have a bump in your shoulder?
Yeah, I do. You just can't tell because I'm fat. If you get fat enough, then you can't tell.
I've got a pretty gnarly one. That's what started my YouTube career, was my AC joint separation.
That's what started it?
Yeah.
That's funny. How the hell does that start a YouTube channel?
Yeah,
hey, I can't ride bikes. Let's do a video about that.
Yeah, does that not make sense, right? Like, hey, I can't do the sport I love. I'll make a YouTube channel about the sport I love. No, it was August 2017, so like a year and a couple months ago. After a long ride, we went to the pump track, which Bellingham just got like a pump track about that time.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a brand new full suspension bike that the suspension wasn't dialed yet, mainly because I didn't know how to dial suspension. And so I'm blaming that, but it was also my fault. Is when I ride now, people are like, dude, you're like the king of heels down. Well, it's because I was the princess of heels down and tried to double in a pump track with my heels up, rotated forward, had an AC joint separation on my right shoulder, which is now like a bump. It was like the closest one to not having surgery.
Yeah, that's where I was at too.
Yeah, yes. It's like a third degree or
third degree. Yeah, that's what I had.
And I broke my left wrist. And before then, in July, I had the idea of starting a YouTube channel about mountain biking. I had done some edits. I had a GoPro Hero Session, the original one, and put it on my helmet. And actually, if some people have commented, they're like, Josh, I watch your old videos. And I'm like, oh, dude, that's like the dark web. We don't talk about that. On my
back whenever you like did drugs and had long hair. Freaking
No, it was just like so cringy. Like it was like my own personal channel. And I'm not going to tell you how to find it anyway. And I would post like stuff around Bellingham. Anyway, and I thought to myself, man, I want to start a YouTube channel that is a mountain bike YouTube channel. So in July, I created the name Daily Mountain Bike Rider because back then I started, I wanted to get better at mountain biking. So every day I'd go ride my bike around my neighborhood, and I got to know my neighbors that way and got a lot better at just like little skills. And then I had the injury. And then 2 weeks later, my friend Matt was like, hey, I bought a it was the GoPro's gimbal. I forget what it's called. Because
I know what you're talking about.
The Karma. Yeah, he bought the Karma grip, and he's like, I'm gonna start posting all this footage, 4K footage of our local mountain bike trails. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, no! Like I had this idea, Matt's stealing my thunder. I'm injured. I can't ride bikes. I'm going to start my YouTube channel.
That fucker to the punch, huh?
Yeah. And so in October last year, 2017, I did a review on multiple bikes. I posted some riding footage of me, and I still had my brace on from where I broke my wrist. And in the videos, I'm like, hey, you know, guys, like I'm not riding very hard because I'm recovering from an injury. But I remember at that moment, like in my brain thinking, the second I upload something, I know I'm going to start a snowball that's going to go down a hill, and I can't stop when I start. And literally I told myself that, and I knew like I had to create content that was engaging. I had to create a logo and like a theme that people could relate to. And once I started uploading, I had to upload every week. And I don't know why I thought that, but I literally was like, I know how this stuff works, and that's what I have to do. And so I started, and I haven't stopped yet. So that's kind of the long short of it.
I think when you first start, that's the most exciting, is just your, I think that when I started my channel, I haven't had that kind of drive for something in so long. It was really refreshing to like pour my fucking soul into something, even if I wasn't doing a good job of it. You know what I mean? It was just like really, really fun. And I don't know, I guess you have to probably be like a person that's maybe searching some sort of approval because you're putting yourself out there and you get excited about reading comments and stuff. I don't know, but like it definitely, you know, getting like the first, I think actually one of my first subscribers, I think my first subscriber that wasn't my buddy was Savant, MTB Savant.
Really?
Yeah. And I just remember I remember thinking to myself, who is this Asian dude down in the Bay Area that's watching my videos? Yeah, right. I was like thinking like, cause I do IT. So I thought like in my head, I was like, this is some kind of like scam account or something like that. It's probably not even real. You know?
I still think he is a scam account.
Yeah, right. Unfortunately, I've ridden with him a few times, so he's got a good front though.
I've ridden with him too. Okay, you caught me. You caught me.
I remember him like making a comment on the video and being like, "Oh, I really like this video," and I was like, I was just so pessimistic about it. I was like, "There's no way that guy must be like he's like being sarcastic, like, oh, good job, dude." You know,
he's the biggest troll that ever existed,
right? So it's definitely was interesting to start. That's funny. I haven't thought about that in a long time. So when you started, you were saying, you know, you haven't stopped, and there was a snowball. I know exactly what you're talking about. It sounds like, you know, you have some experience with some of that kind of marketing stuff. Is that some kind of like job thing that you had going on, or?
Yeah, I'm actually the marketing director for a little thing called YouTube. No, I'm just kidding. No, which is funny because, you know, Robert knows this, but you guys may not. I don't share what my job is, and there's a lot of reasons for that. But the funny thing is, Robert, you were somebody that early on, you're like, dude, you have to be doing something with marketing, right? Because I can see your logo in the chat. You comment on certain like videos, and I see that comment, and I'm like, I know that guy. And the funny thing is, like, my job, like I did a little bit of graphic design. I made some small video shorts. And yet marketing for me, I wouldn't say I'm in no way an expert. But I think if I had to narrow it down, I would say I'm just like a common sense thinker. And that may sound like, stupid. But it's like, I'm a common sense. I think good. Anyway, but what I mean is I see something and I instantly know, like, I'm like, that was good. Or I see something else and I'm like, I don't know who got paid for that, but they should be fired immediately.
Right.
And I kind of put that into practice on my YouTube channel. And not to say I have it all figured out or I did everything right, because I have done so many things wrong. And I still get ridiculed for them, which is my favorite part of the channel, is all the mistakes I've made. But I just thought to myself, and I say it and it sounds like tongue in cheek, but it's not. I made videos that I wanted to watch. And, you know, sometimes late at night, this is going deep, daily mountain bike rider. People are going to think I'm so pathetic. Sometimes late at night, like, I'll just be bored and I'll click back to some of my old videos and I'm like, what are the 5 ways to wheelie better? I don't even know anymore. I can't even remember what I said.
You're your favorite. You're your own best subscriber, dude.
I am, right? That sounds like everyone's gonna be like, this guy has the fattest head in the world, which is true. But literally, I think to myself, like, I created this content on a subject matter that I'm like, feel like I'm an advanced writer at, and yet I'm watching along, nodding my head, going, yeah, that's what I do. Yeah, that's exactly right. And I'm going, man, I'm such an idiot. I'm being clickbaited into my own content. And I laugh every time I do it. My wife's like, you are so dumb. And I'm like, I know. But people are going to just unsubscribe left and right. But the truth is, like, that was what I set out to do on YouTube, as I wanted to help people, and I wanted people who were experts in certain areas to still be engaged and maybe have a little bit more maybe verbiage or knowledge on how to coach a friend. And that's, I feel like that's what I've tried to do, and that's what I continually do. And so, yeah, that's like, that was it. And I don't even remember your question or what we were talking about, but that's where I went to. So
that sounds good to me. I pretty much don't have a clue what I'm doing or have ever really. I think that's probably the problem with my channel is I've never really had a good direction. What are you doing with this channel, Robert? Fucking making videos, man. You know, like I don't even think about it whenever I go to the trail to like record. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm making a video about where I'm going. And what's that going to be? I don't know until I start editing, you know? So I think that maybe I need a little more direction.
Well, yeah, I mean, the truth is, man, if people had to nail down my channel, if you surveyed 100 people, you know, all of them would say something different, because I just make videos that like I want to watch, and sometimes it's point of view, sometimes it's an experiment, sometimes it's a how-to, and I keep doing that. And when I think of a video, I literally just think through the eyes of like, would I want to watch that? And I'm like, yeah, I would click that. So that's,
and then sure enough, like a couple weeks later, you're clicking on it and you're like, oh my God, wait a minute, this is me.
yeah. And I'm like, man, that guy got me. Oh, it's me. What a loser.
So how'd the name come about?
Yeah, it came about. I thought of it way before I originally created it. But I just thought, like I said, I started riding my bike every day, and I heard so many people complain, I can't wheelie, I can't manual, I'm not better. And I'm like, well, how often do you ride? And they're like once every like couple months. I'm like, the people who are the best at something are like an expert. What is it? Robert, you probably know this. No, a professional is somebody who has done something for 10,000 hours. Have you heard this before?
Yes, I have.
Yeah. And I
also watched a really good freaking YouTube video about not being the 10,000 hour guy, that it's best to be in between 1,000 and like 10,000.
Yeah, because you don't get a fat head like I have. And
yeah, right.
But I remember
talking about it was actually really interesting. It was talking about like gains and stuff like that. Like you'll still have the most gains, but once you get to that top level, like you can put so much time into something, and you're really your skill set's not changing any. You know?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and anyway, that concept, like, it stood out to me when I was 13 years old. I played bass guitar. And I was getting really good at Guitar Hero when that was popular. And somebody was like, if you spent half the amount of time you spent on Guitar Hero on bass guitar, you would be like a legendary bassist. And I remember feeling hurt by that, of like, oh man, I should spend more time on not on Guitar Hero. But I remember thinking to myself, if I want to be good at something, the biggest excuse I have is myself. Like, I can't blame that guy's better than me, or I don't have the natural skill. It really comes down to what you spend time doing, what's important for you, or you find time for the things that are important. And so anyway, fast forward, and I wanted to be better at mountain biking. Everybody here in Bellingham is an absolute shredder. And I feel like the weakest of riders, right, when I go on my local trails. And I remember thinking to myself, okay, if I'm going to take this seriously, and for me, seriously is not racing. It's not being a professional YouTuber. Seriously for me is like, I want to hit every jump, and I want to go and have fun and enjoy my time on my local trails. And so that means for me, like I had to get a lot better. And so I started riding way more. I rode in my neighborhood every day. Even today, I practice really like random skills that you may not see as like beneficial, and yet my riding progresses out on the trail. So I started doing all of that, and I called myself in my own head, and once again, fat head, balloon head here. I'm like, I'm the daily mountain bike rider. I ride my bike every day, and it makes me better. And if everybody was a daily mountain bike rider, then they would be better too. And so the dream was birthed.
Yeah, I think, it's actually a really, honest concept that is practical and really true. I'm not fucking blowing smoke up your ass right now. Like, I honestly was thinking about that just like a week or two ago because of your channel name. And I was like, man, I there's some things that I used to do on my BMX bike that I was like, man, I'd like to be able to do that again. And I was thinking the only way I'm going to do that is like get out there and try it every day. And that it was like, just thinking about your channel, I was like, okay, well, I could just spend like 15 minutes working on that again. And then it made me start thinking about, well, man, I could probably learn how to wheelie. Like, I've never been a guy that's good at a wheelie ever in my entire life. And I never really gave a shit either. But for some reason, all of a sudden, I'm like, well, that would be fun just to spend like, do you ever watch that? There's another YouTube channel called Mike Boyd. Have you ever watched him?
Dude, I was literally, as you were talking, I was thinking about Mike Boyd, because when I watch his stuff, I'm like, Mike is me, dude. Like,
yeah,
I get obsessed with things and just have to do them until I learn them. But yeah, he learned to wheelie.
Yeah. I mean, that was one of his first videos, I think, was wheelie or a manual. I think it was a wheelie. He wanted to do a wheelie for like 50 yards or something like that. Anyways, if you guys haven't watched Mike Boyd's channel, you should go take a look at it. What he does is he films himself learning a new task, and then he gives you the amount of time that it actually took him to do that. So let's say it took him 3 months, but he only did like 15 minutes a day. He's adding up that 15 minutes a day, and he's telling you, okay, so it took, 6 hours for me to learn how to do this. So I think when you look at it from that perspective, it really changes your mindset. At least for me, it did. Watching his channel really made me start thinking about like, oh, it only took him like 3 hours to learn how to manual or whatever it was. It was like, well, that's not that much time, and okay, yeah, maybe it took him 6 weeks to do that, but it was like, that really isn't that much time. And it really makes you start thinking about your life and your like how you've applied things,
Yeah, and the biggest thing about Mike that blows me away is he says from the get-go, I'm not going to watch a YouTube video on how to do this or read a book. I'm just going to do it and figure it out as I go. And to me, like, that's the biggest testament of the more you spend time doing something, the more you will learn. And you can learn like bad mechanics and bad stuff, but you can also figure it out pretty dang well if you just try.
Yeah, I didn't remember that aspect. I do know that he doesn't like, does he still do that? He doesn't look it up?
No, like in everything he does, like he doesn't look it up. Like,
oh wow, yeah. That's really cool, because he did that thing wherever he like broke a glass by hitting a certain note. Like, he had to look that up.
So what he like, once again, forgive me if I'm saying this wrong. What he does is he tries as hard as he can by himself,
and then he does. Okay.
Yeah, if he feels like he's hitting a brick wall for like 50 hours, then he'll start and look at some videos and what other people say.
Yeah, no, that I mean, that's interesting. I mean, it's sort of like a No Front Brakes Terrible Technician series, which, by the way, is freaking awesome. I love that series. If he did nothing but Terrible Technician on his channel, I would watch them all. I think his channel would be huge.
Yeah, everyone needs to go and subscribe to No Front Brakes, which is Eric. He's based out of Texas. He's awesome. And the truth is, like, I've heard a lot of
watching it. I think that's the thing, is I hate watching it as much as I like watching it, because he doesn't look shit up. And I'm like, you fucking idiot. I'm like, I want to yell at my TV. I'm like, what are you thinking, man? Did you not have a bike when you were a kid? Like, oh, it's just freaking hilarious.
But you know what though? Like, he is like the person inside of all of us that's like, I don't need to listen to directions. I'm smart enough. I can figure this out. And so, like, that's how I learned how to do my bike maintenance, man. Like, you have to spray WD-40 on your chain before you figure out it's a terrible idea, right?
Right.
Yeah. So
Bad idea.
yeah, and like for me, like I made how to wheelie, how to manual. I actually am posting one hopefully tomorrow or Tuesday because I just filmed it today on manualing again. But the funny thing is the day before I filmed both those videos, you would watch a guy who was terrible at both those things, and I was literally like, I've got to figure this out if I'm going to make a video about it. So I'm going to practice my butt off until I nail it. And literally, I figured it out on my own, and I presented a point of view that was different than everybody else because it was a Joe Schmo who just figured it out. And I've heard so many people that are like, thank you so much. Your video helped show an angle that nobody else could. Like no professional who's done it for 10 years can speak the language you gave. And I'm like, well, it's because I literally have not perfected it and may or may not have nailed it by that video. Yeah.
What was the video again?
Well, it was both my how to wheelie and how to manual, which is funny because I kid you not, like I was not great at either of those things before I started trying to make that video. And once I made it, like that was the point where I started like, I got it finally. Yeah.
So I know I go back and look at my videos and sometimes I really like, the editing is like way different. And there's things I'm like, man, I would have cut that out or left that out. Or like, so when you were like, those two videos, for example, like what is it that you look at when you watch the how to manual video that you're like, man, I totally freaking dropped the ball. I should have said this.
Oh gosh. Once again, Robert, we're getting back to the fat head here.
You're like, no, perfect.
What'd you say?
No, it was perfect.
Well, yeah, like I feel like in both those videos, like I have like 5 main points. The last point is to go out and practice. And in that I say like, at the end of the day, no matter what I say, you have to go figure out what works for you. And every time I hear that, I'm like, yeah, I respect that. Like I would agree.
Yeah.
You know,
so basically you didn't give them any pointers at all. You just told them to go do it.
Yeah. Which is funny because I give like all the pointers. It's kind of like the guy who makes like this big outrageous argument, and then at the end of it is like, "But I'm a limp noodle. Like I don't actually mean anything I say." Like that's what I do, and so when I watch it back, I'm like, and a lot of ways I don't regret what I said, and the reason I can say that with confidence is there's one video I have not made, and yet I filmed 3 different times, and it still doesn't exist, and that is how to. I shouldn't even say it, or else people are going to want to watch it, you know?
Yeah. How to disguise what you do for a living on the internet. Yeah.
Just pull your shirt up on live streams. And then I'm pulling my shirt up for those who don't see. Don't worry. There's no skin showing. No, it's how to jump a mountain bike. I've recorded 3 different times how to jump or, how to do doubles. And every time as I'm editing the footage, I think to myself, I don't feel comfortable posting this. Like, I don't think this is the advice people need to hear. And because of that, that video doesn't exist. And maybe one day it will, but like that goes to show you, like in my mind, if I in any way think down the line I'm going to regret what I'm saying, like then I won't post it. Now, there's still thousands of things I've said that I absolutely regret, but that was one of them.
The video that is like the bane of my recording existence is how to night ride. I've recorded that video probably 3 or 4 times at this point.
Yeah.
And every time the last time I thought I was like, okay, I remember everything that I didn't like about the last one, and I'm going to get all of that into this one. And I felt like I did. And then I went through, I did the rough cut, and I was like, nope.
Yeah. And for me, like, I totally hear what you're saying. And I would argue with night riding, it's a lot like jumping. And a couple of people are saying like they would watch that video a lot. Is you don't know what you don't know. And until you go and try night riding, like no informational video will prepare you for the feelings and emotions and the way you feel when you're out on the trail. And so that's what I think. Like my first time night riding, I didn't know anything and I probably should have died and somehow I didn't, but I learned from it,
Yeah, I think the thing with the night riding is I feel like it's just the video quality and having it bright enough that it's, that it looks decent, and the color of the lights just wash everything out. And especially like here where it's kind of dry, I feel like I remember saying on the last ride on the last edit, I actually remember saying, if I lived where Daily MTB Rider does, I bet you this would film a lot better, because I felt like I was thinking about like your dirt up there, and I was like, oh, it's not so reflective, like because it's like more moist and stuff. And oh man, I just it's definitely a tough one. I mean, even Bobo says so. I mean, if Bobo says it.
Bobo does not say that. And the grass
right in the chat, he says, yeah, dude, night rides are tough.
Yes, no, they totally are. And I made a night riding video. It was my first sponsored video from Gemini Lights. Anyway, it was my first sponsored video.
What was their website again?
Gemini, Jemin. No, I'm just kidding. It was my first sponsored video. And
do I get a sponsorship if I say it too? Gemini Lights.
You have to say it at least 3 times, and 17,000 people have to buy a product. Anyway, I remember I worked so hard. Like I recorded on my GoPro at least 10 times. Like my friend Jesse was waiting for me for like an hour because I wanted to make sure I got it perfect. And in post, it was still garbage. And I'm like, come on. And the worst part, and Mountain Bike Geeks on here, Bobo, MLC Adventures, anybody else who's a YouTuber, nobody wants to watch night riding videos. Like, look at anybody's night riding videos, no matter how clickbaity the thumb is or the title, nobody watches them. And that is the biggest, like, it is the hardest video to make. And then once you make it, you feel like nobody watches it. And that is the worst feeling.
The coolest thing that I've seen on a night ride video was by MTB Savant.
And what was his video?
I think it was about night riding, or I don't remember exactly, but when he was doing it, he rode the trail in the daytime and at night. So he would you would be watching the video, like he's about to hit this jump, and in the daylight, and then it would and then it was the night portion, and then it would be like back to the day again, and it was like in the exact same spot of the exact same trail. I was like, oh, that was really cool. But now he did that, I can't do it, you know.
And again, that like, I might have written that down for my next video. Like, that's a great idea.
No, it actually was really slick. You should go take a look at it. That's MTB Savant's channel.
Yeah, so. Yeah, MTB Savant, he's the man. But yeah, like night riding is just it's something so awesome, but it's hard to capture. And I realized not a lot of people night ride, which is a shame, because up here in Washington, you have to if you want to ride. That's just the truth.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's this time of year as well. I mean, I think that if you want to, you know, be riding through the week and not, you know, just the weekends, the only way to go about it is get a light. You know, how long have you been riding at night? Is this something that you've been doing for quite some time, or?
I actually think I started either last year, or I probably went on a couple the year before. But last year is when I did it the most. Yeah.
What's one of your fun night riding stories?
Ooh, fun night. Oh, the most fun one was the first night ride I ever did. We were in a birthing class. That reminds me, the first time I night rode was 2 years ago. We were in a birthing class so that I could make sure I could deliver my baby well. And there was a guy there who worked for Kona.
Did you deliver your baby yourself?
Yeah, well, it was in my belly. You know, I had to do that somehow.
No, I mean, like, you delivered your wife's baby, like, or instead of having like a midwife do it, or you're just like there, like coaching her.
I was at the birthing class. I did not deliver my wife's baby on her own. That's what hospitals are for.
I didn't know, man. Maybe that's what your job is. So I was just trying to get into it.
Yeah, my job is I'm an OBGYN. #
Right.
Whatever. But no, I went for the first time with him.
I think that was about as freaking un-PC you've ever made a joke online at that point, man.
What, saying I'm an OBGYN?
I don't know. The hashtag thing in my mind went a lot of bad places, dude.
I didn't fill in the blanks. So that's where your mind goes, dude.
I think that counts, dude. You pretty much just said fuck on the internet, dude.
Anyway, so
yeah, you're at this birthing class, right?
Yeah. So he's like, "Hey, let's go night riding," and I'm like, "Oh, cool. Do you have some extra lights?" I'm quickly getting away from that subject, and he's like, "Yeah, sure." And so we go, and I had just started like jumping a lot of bigger jumps, and I was like, "I'm not going to jump at night. I'm not going to jump at night. Jumping at night is stupid. I'm not going to jump at night." and one of this guy's friends is leading, and I'm behind him, and he just starts going off the hugest jumps, and I'm like, well, if he does it, I can do it. Woo! So I was like, I was fine, but the whole time I'm thinking to myself, like, I'm about to die. And then we go off this like a bunch of huge sets, and then we get to a wooden bridge, and it has chicken wire on it, and it's stapled in to give grip. And then all of a sudden, he just goes wham, and literally like a bunch of the chicken wire like piled up on itself, and his pinky was like pointing to yesterday, and he's like, oh my gosh, I broke my pinky. And I was like, oh,
you're all, how do you know? And then you're like, freaking just,
yeah, and he shows it, and you're like, dude, I didn't know you could point that far right. And like, I was like, dang. And so he had to like walk down the mountain. It was a pretty far hike out. And I thought, like, bummer, that guy broke his pinky. This guy's wife, the friend of this guy, is actually our pediatrician, which is also what I do. And she was like, one day, it was probably my son's like year checkup, and I'm like, hey, how's that guy's friend? She's like, he has had multiple surgeries on his pinky, and he has another one scheduled in a week. Like, that one incident, he had multiple surgeries, not from a jump, not from doing anything crazy, but from a wooden bridge with chicken wire. And since then, and before then too, I am deathly afraid of wet manufactured wood out on mountain bike trails.
Yeah, I know. I definitely understand that.
Yeah.
That's the crazy thing about mountain biking, man. You know, like you can do all like this hairy shit, and a lot of times it's like, I'm not kidding you, the section that I went down in and where I screwed up my shoulder so bad, I don't even think I was going 10 miles an hour. You know what I mean? Like, we had just started at the top of this hill that is like nothing. There's like some rocks on it, and it just so happened to be like that fork failed, and when it did, my headset dropped to the tire, and it just threw me the right way. And however my hand was, whichever direction it was, you know, like, it was just like the perfectly aligned accident, just like that, dude. You know, that's the part that's just like crazy. You know, you get in your head about all this other stuff. Maybe you shouldn't be, you know.
And the truth is, like, all of my biggest injuries or mountain bike failures, it's never on the biggest jumps at Whistler. It's never on doing something huge for the first time. It's always the mediocre and the mundane that you think is safe. And then you realize, it's like reality hits you upside the head, and you realize this sport in every way is not, it's like not normal. Like going at high speeds by trees and jumping in the air with a 30-pound bike underneath you, like, that's not normal. And sometimes if you do something wrong in just the right way, you feel it. So
yeah, it's just, you know, it's one of those things that I think that most of us mountain bikers are complacent about, is actually realizing how dangerous the sport is. You know, when you tell people that you ride mountain bike that don't ride, they're like, oh my God, you do that? You know, and in my head, I just think that they're like thinking that I'm like, you know, doing Rampage, you know, and I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. And they're like, no, but you like out there in the mountains, like with like in the woods in the middle of nowhere, like, oh yeah, they are actually thinking about what I do, you know. And it's like, you know, and to them, they're like, that's just fucking nuts, you know. And it's like, I talk to, you know, friends of mine that are climbers, and that's the way I look at them. I'm like, what the hell's wrong with you? Yeah, you know, like, and I think that we definitely need to pay a little more respect to what we do and how dangerous it is, you know?
yeah. And if you don't, you'll, once again, Murphy's Law, right? Like, if you don't give it respect, or you don't realize like that it really is like anything can happen, and you can get off the bike for, honestly, permanently with just one wrong move, like, it slaps you in the face, right? So
yeah, I mean, the injuries that you could sustain could be like the end of your life, you know, like it literally, it could be that, you know. Like, a night ride story, actually. There's an exposed section of Auburn that I was riding on, and my light just died, just cut out. And I, you know, knew enough where I was to just like, I could just jam the brakes, But I mean, even in that second, it could have been some rock there that I didn't remember and just threw me a little bit to the left. And next thing you know, I've been whoop in the river. And, you know, at that point, the water was going pretty good and it was really fucking cold. Like, who knows how long it'd take me to get hypothermia or just drown right there. You know, like maybe I banged my head on a rock on my way down and like, you know, it's just that simple, you know?
Yeah, people don't realize like, how quickly we can go down. And yeah, I forget it too. You know, it's the truth. Hey, Robert, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
I'm switching gears, but I think it's a good gear because it's something I've been thinking about a lot recently, and I'm guessing you've thought about too, is the difficulty that is making content for the internet that is YouTube. And the question I have for you is one I've thought about a lot. What video did you put the most work into that you were most bummed out about not getting better results from?
You know, that's really tough. And, you know, honestly, like it's really tough for me to say because I can't, I feel like every video I do, it doesn't get the results that I want. So like
every video I make, I think it's going to get 1 million views. So when it gets not that, I'm like, I failed.
Well, I think it's just like every one of them just doesn't like for whatever reason. I just want like in my mind, I'm like, this is like every time I finish one, it's like this one's better than the last one. This is going to be the best one. Yeah. And this is going to be the one that fucking goes viral or some shit like that, you know, and that doesn't happen. So apparently I'm a shitty YouTuber.
Dude, I think we all feel that. And I think like, you know, I think about people who watch my channel, like they don't realize like, I think about, it's not just the negative comments, but those bring things out too. People don't realize like when I record something and I've done it 6 takes and the 6th take, I only say 2 words wrong and they write a comment about the 2 words I got wrong. And I'm like, you know what, dude? Like it's so hard when you record it multiple times and your brain knows you're messing up and yet your mouth does something else. And that's just like one part of it. But
I don't know if I don't get a lot of negative comments or I just like my mind just doesn't get it that it's actually negative. I think there's probably people that have said some fucked up stuff to me and I actually just thought they were being funny. So they're like, oh, you're so fat. And I'm like, oh my God, you're so funny.
You're hilarious.
Yeah, joke sign, you know, like, wait a minute. Was that fucked up? I don't know. You know, I'm trying to think of anything that's really freaking got under my skin that I've read comment wise. And I can't really come up with one. Yeah, I think for the most part too, like I've been like on the internet long enough to know like everybody fucking is a hater on the internet, you know? So
yeah, and I don't get offended by like any means by like any of the negative comments because usually it's like common sense stuff and I'm like, you realize I have like a brain, right? Like I understand everything you're like grilling me over is worth grilling me over. But back to the original question of videos. For me, I think about there was one video I made and you saw it because it was right before I came down to visit you. It was my scooter that I made a mountain bike rack for.
Oh yeah, that didn't do good?
Well, it did good. It did not do viral video, which I think
you thought it was going to break the internet.
I thought it was going to break the internet. And I think Eric from BCPOV, he said the truth. He was like, and this is unfortunate, but it's just the world we live in. He's like, if Seth would have dropped that video, it would have been easily viral. But unfortunately, you know, because I'm a smaller channel. And once again, if Seth would have dropped it, he would have done it better. And because he would have done it better, it would have got more views. But it was funny because I actually had that concept before I started my mountain bike channel. Yeah. And I thought to myself, I don't want to introduce this video too soon because I want an audience that is going to be able to watch it in order to help it grow. There's that marketing side to me that most people don't realize.
Yeah.
I think about those type of things. But I met a really cool guy that does video production, and he was like, hey, if you ever want help on a project, let's do it. And I was like, okay, like I have an idea. And 6 months down the road, they helped me make that, and we made the most sick edit, like awesome thing ever. And
yeah, no, I really like. I remember the beginning was like a real build up, and then all of a sudden it was like you like
yeah.
like yeah, it was hilarious.
Yeah, and I think I spent too much time talking instead of just letting the edit drop of like the high class people. Like I've only thought about it like a million times, all the ways I messed up. But I remember thinking, man, I put my everything to that video. Like I did multiple shoots. Like I went to various locations. I filmed special stuff around the city. I incorporated like stuff in the city that people in Bellingham would like notice. Like I thought to myself, I've done every checkbox to make this go viral.
Right.
And then the next week I dropped a video that was like riding my hardtail at Whistler. And I'm like, well, I'm going to do it anyway. People will watch it. And that video did better. And I'm like, come on.
Right. Yeah. The Moonlight video that I just did was one that I wanted to do since the very beginning of the channel.
Yeah.
And
if people have not watched Robert's Moonlight video, I am going to like metaphorically, I don't even know the word, like virtually punch you in the face. Go watch it, because you didn't tell me back in June when I begged you to tell me. And finally I heard the story and you made it so engaging and awesome. So go watch it.
That's funny. I didn't know that I was doing it that way until I was editing it. Like really, I told the story on the trail while I was riding. And when I just started to edit, because I wanted to get some drone shots, I bought that freaking drone and I really wanted to like start using that. So I used the drone shots at the beginning because I don't know what it was. It was like some like comedian or something like that, some skit that I heard somewhere in my mind or somewhere in my life that like people were like making fun of the guy that does like the movie trailers, and he's always like, in a world where like, and so I was like, I just want to say that, and I don't know what I'm going to say, but I need to say in a world, and so I'm doing this drone stuff, and then I started it like that, and then I was like, you know what, it would be better for me just to tell the story that way, and I kind of went back and forth on whether or not I was going to do it more in like upbeat and comedy kind of way, or you know what I mean. And I think letting the video be the comedy instead of the voiceover, I think it worked out.
Yeah, and it's done really well. Like it looks like it's done super well so far.
I think it also has the most dislikes out of any video that I've done so far too.
What?
Yeah. People are really upset about it apparently. So
you know what, Robert? I know exactly why. Because everybody who disliked that video has not met Zach in real life. And if you met Zach in real life, all your that didn't happen. No one would do that. Don't believe it would go away. That's true.
Yeah. Yeah, he's definitely a unique character, that's for sure. Yeah. So that's what was so fun about that story. I still like telling the story in person, but it was definitely one of those things where I knew when I started the channel, kind of like what you were saying, you needed to have an audience first. I knew in my mind when I started the channel that I like wanted to have kind of like nicknames for people anyway, and like so that people would be interested in them as a character on the channel as well, and so that and the story of how it came about just was one that was like, there's no way that we don't tell it someday. But
yeah, and now you have that, which is awesome. And I love that. Like I remember the first live stream Moonlight Leatherfoot was on, and I was like, Moonlight Leather, why would you call him that, right? And so you had me hooked in, and I looked at you, and people didn't see it, but I looked at you with the most like ticked off face, because you're like, I love telling that story. And I was like, if you loved it, Robert, you would have told me when I flew down to visit you for a weekend for biker camp.
Yeah, I think the only reason I didn't tell you is because you wanted to know so bad. So
guys, you don't realize I am like the biker channel biggest fanboy, and nobody knows it, or maybe everybody knows it, but I would like begged you multiple times for that story. Still did.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. That is, it is really funny. So what now? How many subs do you have?
At least seven. At least seven.
So what is it? Like 20,000, something like that? 20, 30,000?
I'm over 41 now.
Fucking A, man.
Yeah.
Oh God, the battery's dying on my mouse or something. This is freaking ridiculous. I was gonna fact check you, but now I don't give a shit anymore. So 40,000.
Sorry, what's a mouse? I was born way after those days, so I was just curious.
Oh yeah. It's this thing that we use.
Let's see, Robert. I'll do a check. I have 41,889.
There you go. So this is taking you said now you're about a year you're coming up on, or
I'm a year and a month.
Year and a month?
Not that I'm counting. Okay.
Right. So 40,000 subscribers in a year is pretty fucking amazing. What do you think contributed to that?
Oh, luck, clickbait, and PewDiePie, all those things. No, I'm just kidding. By the way, sorry, total side note. Have you seen the PewDiePie versus T-Series?
No, I haven't seen that. I don't watch it.
Dude, I am obsessed. Everybody who on the chat, probably everybody knows about it. Anyway, long story short, PewDiePie is going to get out-subbed by some random Indian YouTube channel.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he's the biggest YouTuber in the world. But
yeah, I knew who he is because I looked like I remember being on like Social Blade one day, and it was like, oh, this is the biggest one. So I went and I just wanted to see what his content was like, because that obviously makes sense, and the dude it was capturing. It was enough to keep my attention for a while. So I definitely know who you're talking about.
Yeah. But back to your question, what contributed to my success? I think, I've thought about that too a lot. And there's very few mountain bike channels specifically that have grown at the rate I've grown. I think the closest one would probably be the Lone Ranger. And Ryan had one video that still to this day gets crazy views, which is a run in Whistler with a big wood feature in the thumbnail. And that video has like 3 million views, right? And he grew exponentially from that. And I look at my channel and I'm like, you know what? Like I have a good amount of videos that have a lot of views, but I don't have one video that got everybody in. I didn't do.
I mean, I was thinking even to myself, like, I think that I don't know. I don't even know if Brian, like BKXC, had 40. I don't know what he was at the end of 1 year. That's actually a good question to ask him. See about how he was at a year, because I think what really helped him. Sorry to cut you off. Was like working with Seth, and then that kind of little brotherhood that the three of them had. But I think for you, like you've really just kind of like been like you're like slaving to the grind. Like you're just pumping out good content. Like I don't have something with your channel that I could be like, there was like this pivotal moment. Like I think it was just consistently fucking clickbaiting people.
No, seriously though, and like I've thought about that because in some ways, like I think the easy. I don't know if the easy thing, but I think the reality is a lot of times as a creator, you're like, man, I wish BKXC would make a video or an interview with me, or I wish I could go fly out and ride with Seth and get exponentially more viewers, right? But if you look at my channel, like it really is, I have the subscribers I have because of the content I made. Now, there are little things along the way that people have helped me out. I was thinking before today about coming here on the Biker channel. I remember back in the day, back when I was a small channel, a guy named Robert from the Biker channel wanted me to be on his live stream. And I thought to myself, I have arrived. I'm going to get so many subscribers from going live with this guy. And so I've had little things along the way that have like totally helped me. And so I would be naive to think like, I've done this myself. I'm awesome. But yeah, in a lot of ways, like I keep making good content. People keep subscribing to me, and it's, people say it a lot and it's very tongue in cheek and cliche, but like it blows my mind that 41,000 people have watched a video and decided to click a little button. Like regardless of what that button means, whether it was subscribe or a like button or a you're not a complete dum-dum, like to me, that's so cool. Like I just love that. And so I think it just comes down to like what I said earlier. I make content that if I was a viewer, I would really enjoy watching. And my hope is to always do that and never sell myself short and never ever put content out that I wouldn't enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you've been pretty successful this first year. I would assume that if you continue doing what you're doing, you're going to be just as successful in your second year. At what point is it that you quit the job that nobody knows and do this full time, or is this just going to be like your side gig forever?
Yeah, that's a deep question. It's a question I've wrestled with a lot recently. And if people realize two things: one, I have a Patreon. I've never pushed it. I never will, because I don't know, I probably should. And guys like you, Robert, tell me I should. But part of me goes, I don't know if I want to push something, because if I went full time, I would need that, and I would push it really hard because I need it. But I don't know if I'll ever go full time. I love the idea of making mountain bike content, but in my life personally, I find a lot of fulfillment in my job, and I enjoy what I do. And because of that, mountain biking is, I mean, honesty hour. Doing mountain bike YouTube videos full time for me would be easy. Doing my job is a lot harder, but I find a lot of fulfillment in doing my job. And so I've really been in that crossroads a lot recently, because most channels my size are doing it full time. And for me, like, that day will probably come, but I feel like it'll be a while until it comes. Maybe that answers your question. I said a lot of vague things, so.
No, it doesn't matter. I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's just the way you feel, you know?
Yeah.
So, and I think, you know, not pushing your Patreon is probably a little easier with the growth that you've had, to be honest with you, Josh, because you have enough views on your videos that you're probably making a fairly decent, like, revenue check from YouTube. Obviously not enough to go quit your job, but I think where it's somewhere like for someone my size, where my views are way lower than yours. If it was, I personally can say without Patreon, I probably wouldn't still be making content, you know? So, because there is a certain point where it's like, I mean, the way I explained this to somebody just recently, it was like almost a year until it was like 6 months, 6 or 7 months, I think, until I got that. You know how you have to like get $100 in ad revenue from YouTube before they cut you your first check?
Yeah.
I think it was like 6 or 7 months. So basically, I was, no joke, putting 40 hours plus a week into my channel. And to work a full-time job for 6 months to get $100, that's some fucking passion. You know what I mean? But like, passion like that doesn't last forever. You know what I mean? So it definitely, at some point, you got to feel like there's a light at the end of the tunnel, or some sort of reward for all the effort that you're putting in, you know? And I think that's, you know, that's kind of where, you know, I've called people to Patreon for that, you know, is to really, you know, help me keep creating content. If you guys really like it, fucking get to the Patreon or subscribe. And, you know, I always say that too, you know, at the very least, just watch the fucking video, you know, from the beginning to the end, you know, and if you like it, then hit the freaking thumbs up button because you liked it. You know, I don't feel like it's some like sacred thing. Like, dude, if the video makes anybody's video for this matter, if it makes you smile once or makes you laugh once, like, it is worth the energy it takes you to move your hand over and freaking push the thumbs up button. You know what I mean?
Totally. Yeah. And you hit on a lot of things, right? And my core belief, and the truth is, I don't support as many creators on Patreon as much as I should. I do support bikers, so make sure you do that at patreon.com/B1KER. Anyway, do
I have to pay you for that? Is that what just happened?
I thought that's why I was doing this interview. Anyway, but the truth is, like, you know, I think of it in two realms. The first realm is, you and I are creating content that people enjoy for free. Now, it's not actually free, because any ad that you watch, we get a small kickback from. And when I say small, I mean $1 to $3 per 1,000 views if we're lucky. That's just facts. It's not, you know, me saying that. But the truth is, like, if you're making a video a week that I enjoy, that's 4 to 5 videos a month. I feel like that's worth at least, Robert always says it's a beer. I always call it peanut M&Ms are my favorite, right? So it's a big bag of peanut M&Ms. Like, throw me a bone. Like, I would buy my friend lunch if he was doing something for me once a week for 10 minutes. Like, I would do that because I love my friend.
Right.
And he's taking care of me. And so to me, like, supporting somebody on Patreon for $3 a month, like, that is like chump change. Like, I would give a homeless man $3 a month. More than that, though, I feel like it's good to support people.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like, even if you, there's guys that I'm supporting, I'm not on their, like, their plans, whatever, their tiers. I just went to their site or went to their Patreon and said, here's $1.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, if you have 1,000 people giving you $1, that's a good chunk of change. And
that's
you might
like $2,000.
Right. But I mean, you feel like you may feel like your buck doesn't mean much, but it will, in the growth, in the, like, the scheme of things.
And yeah. And the truth is, like, what I don't say, which I wish, it's not I wish I could say, it's I wish there was a better platform to say it. And I think this is a great one, is if you follow somebody on YouTube or you watch their videos, the smallest thing you can do that takes almost zero time, click the subscribe button, because it literally costs you nothing and it supports and means a ton to the person creating a video. Click the like button and leave a comment. You can do all those things in under a minute, and it boosts that person's content. And not only that, it shows them that you're with them. And if every person who watched our videos clicked the like button, clicked subscribe, and left a comment, it would help our channel soar. And not only that, it would let us know that they care. And those are the things that they don't cost any money. It just takes a little bit of effort, and they mean the absolute world. And once again, it sounds tongue in cheek because people with millions of subscribers are like, thank you, everybody. You're helping me be a millionaire. But for guys our size, it really does mean a lot. And me personally, like, my takeaway is, my hope would be one day I have enough subscribers and views and whatever you call it, so that I am self-sufficient. And, I'm not going to make a political statement about Patreon. I'm not going to, make end goals or whatever. But for me personally, I would love to see the YouTube channel get to the point where it would provide for me financially full time, so that I can do everything I can to give back to the mountain bike community, to give back to people who watch my video. Because at the end of the day, I started my channel because I wanted to get to know more people and I wanted to help people out on a mountain bike. And whenever my channel ends, or if it never does end, I want that always to be the premise. I always want to give back. On my Patreon, when people support me, I don't really make much money. I just do it so I can make t-shirts for people to get, or give them or whatever it may be. But, like, yeah, I'm on my soapbox and I'll get off it. But at the end of the day, like, I don't want to get rich from YouTube. I started it to help people, and I'm going to end it helping people. And that's just who I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I really like the community of it. I mean, that for me is like what I really enjoy. I think when I started, man, I wish I would have wrote down, like, really what I expected out of it, because I don't remember. And I still don't necessarily know what I expect out of it, but I remember saying to people that at the very least, if I can make enough money to pay for one part that I was going to buy anyway, that would be worth it. And I remember saying, at the very least, if nobody watches my videos, at least I've documented my life. And that'll be something fun to be able to go back and look at. And I go back and watch my old videos, just like you were saying, and before I started my channel, I was doing some content, kind of like what you were saying, like more personal kind of content or whatever. And at that time it was BB as well, because I had already had the domain name. My idea for what I was doing was a little different. But anyways, one of the videos was like, I went out and rode with my kids, and I still have that on my channel. It's when I deleted everything else off there. I left that one on there just to, like, kind of keep me grounded and remember, like, where I started. But it's been quite an adventure, and that's what I was getting at, was like, so then I watched the other day, or I just recently put out a video that was like little clips of all the videos that I've done. So it's like 101 different clips.
It was a great video.
Yeah, it was really fun to watch, man, because it was like, man, like that statement of at least I documented my life, like really came back to my mind as I was watching it. And I was just like, this is really cool, man. Like all those adventures that I've had. And then I captured them all, like that's just really neat. And that's something that like I urge anybody that's thinking about doing a YouTube channel, even if you could give a fuck about whether or not people watch it or anything like that, like maybe you don't care about that, you don't care about getting big or whatever, but do it, really do it, because it's so cool to be able to go back and see that, and so I was watching those old videos and like kind of seeing that, and I went back to the one with my kids, and I remember thinking to myself, man, I should have done more videos with them, because they're like getting ready to move out now. It's like, I wish I would have documented more of my life,
No, I hear you, man. And I think that's the coolest part is through watching somebody's videos, you really can tell who somebody is, right? And who people don't know, me and Robert we're good friends outside of what you guys see in live streams or in videos. And I attribute a lot of that just to your normal content, right? And I think about every creator from Brian to Eric at No Front Breaks to Joseph to fill in the blank. And people can see who you are through your videos. And so whenever we do die and pass on, because all of us will one day, like we're going to leave who we were for anybody who ever knew us, right? And good or bad, ups and downs, like that's there. And yeah. I think that's pretty neat.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I've thought about that. Like if I had gotten a car accident tomorrow, like my kids could still watch all those videos and be like, there's dad,
Absolutely. So Robert, if somebody was wanting to make a YouTube channel.
What was that?
What?
I'm sorry. I was talking at the same time as you, so I couldn't hear what you said.
Robert, shut your face. If somebody was wanting to make a YouTube channel, what would you say is the biggest hurdle they're going to find?
Wait a minute. I thought this is my fucking interview, dude.
It is as long as you're in charge, but I'm in charge. Robert, remember you're paying me for the sponsorship. Go to patreon.com/B1KER.
No, what was your question? So what do you think the biggest hurdle is going to be?
Yeah, if somebody wanted to start making videos of mountain biking or just their life.
I will tell you hands down 150% without even thinking about it is editing.
Yeah.
It's just like, unless you are already an editor for your day job, then that won't be your problem. But for everybody else, it's like, it is so time consuming. And it's like, there is like no, at least from what I started on, no easy way to be like, oh, here's the simple way to do it for you dipshits that are just starting. It's like, hey, here you go. It's like if your first mountain climbing was like, all right, we're going to go mountain climbing tomorrow, and here's Everest. It's like not any way to like get into it easily. I mean, what for you was the biggest challenge?
Oh gosh, I think I 1000% agree to editing, right? Like it is so hard to edit. And like you said, it's like mountain biking. You are not going to be rampage level your first time. In fact, you're going to be the most pathetic looking thing the first time you edit a video. I'm going to feel that. I think for me, the hardest part is making your ideas become a reality, because our brains think so highly of what we will be able to do. And yet what we actually create falls short. And that doesn't mean to let that beat you up into not doing it. It's just a reality of, man, we think we're going to do so good or all these things are going to work out. And then reality strikes and you're like, this is much harder than I thought it was going to be. Yeah,
I think that there's also another end of it where it's like, it's you. So like you're watching yourself, you were on that ride, you were there that day. Like it's so easy for you to like have like a glorified idea of how well this looks. Yeah. And I think that the only way that you can actually see that is have a YouTube channel and then go back and watch a video from a year ago. And now you're watching it like a regular person on the internet does. Like you've kind of forgotten the ride, you've forgotten like the video, you've forgotten the edit, you forgot all that. And as you're watching it, you're like, oh, this is kind of boring right here. Oh, that's kind of boring, right? You know, like you're like, you get it then. You know, you're like, oh, no wonder I didn't get many views on that one. You know.
Yeah, you totally see it in hindsight when you watch it back again. That's for sure.
So I hear some little voices there. So you have children, 1, 2.
I have one next of kin, one firstborn son. Yeah, my son Eli. He just turned 2 a week ago. Yeah.
So you plan on going to any more birthing classes or?
Yeah, as many as I can go to. I just love the feeling I get when I'm there. Just all the pregnant people, men and women. You know, no discriminating. No.
So what's up? You gonna bang out some more kids or what?
Great verbiage, Robert. Great verbiage.
I just like making you squirm, dude.
People might think I'm squirming, but I'm never squirming. My son is now pulling the Ethernet cable through the dog door of the door and yelling hi at the same time to get my attention.
That's one way to do it.
Yeah. No.
So if the live stream goes offline, we know what happened.
No, for sure. We're definitely planning on having another kid sometime. And we have our one son, Eli, and he's awesome. And I cannot wait to bring that kid on a ride and officially have him be to the point to communicate well enough to be on the channel. He's already been on the channel once, but it would be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you look forward to with him as far as like riding?
I am looking forward to the fact that knowing myself and knowing how he will be, I can't wait for the day that he outperforms me. And I know it's going to come far sooner than I ever think it could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for me, when I was riding with my son, it was just to be out there and to really kind of have these like moments together where you're just two guys, you know, out in the woods having a good time. You know what I mean? Like, and the conversations or the like, dude, you made it through this, and like that same camaraderie that you have with your buddy, but like it's your kid, you know? And I think that I felt like I'm glad that I had that with him before he moved out, you know, that we were able to like have those times together where it was just two of us. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's your goal with like anybody mountain biking is, and maybe it's not everybody's goal, but it is mine, is like to get to the point where you can really know who somebody is and they let their guard down and just speak from the heart. And I think every father wants that from their kids, and mountain biking is such a neat avenue to get there. And you were talking about a while ago, we were talking about like, you know, getting into mountain biking, all those things. And I think the thing that got me most about mountain biking is I found it I rode motorcycles, I snowboarded all growing up, is it's finding something where you're allowed to let everything else in your life kind of be set aside so you can go and just feel like you have such a healthy escape. And for me, like what you're talking about is having a healthy escape with your kids in a way that just lets your guard down and you can just be who you are. And that's why I love mountain biking. And I agree 100%. Like that's what I'm stoked about. Yeah, I'm stoked about him getting better than me, which will happen. But man, that's what it's really about.
So that's basically like what you love about riding itself then?
Whether I had a YouTube channel or not, that is why I will continue to ride my bike until the day I die, is because, or I can't anymore, is because there's nothing else I found that's so easy to do that allows me to set everything else in my life aside and just be who I am. And I love that.
Yeah. I always, I used to ski a lot. And I think the reason that I like skiing is the same reason that I like riding bikes, is that my mind's like normally going 1,000,000 miles a minute on all kinds of stuff. I'm kind of like ADD, shiny ball syndrome constantly, you know, and when I'm riding bikes, like it's like I can focus on just one thing, you know?
Yeah.
And like that's really all that they're like when you're out there riding bikes, like there's no bills to pay. There's no like, like all of those things. It's just, it all goes away. You're not worried about freaking whether or not you got to put a new starter in the truck or something like that, So
yeah, and that's the coolest part about the mountain biking community is not only like do you have that feeling, but when you're out on the trails, like everybody's equal, right? Like everybody loves to be out there, and it's just there's so much joy in like no matter what kind of bike you have or what kind of rider you are accepted, which I think is so cool.
So you're doing a series, or you were doing a series on this like lower cost bike. Didn't you get rid of your Evil and you bought something a little cheaper?
Yeah, well, I got rid of the Evil. I did not quite actually at all buy something cheaper, but my heart is huge for lower cost bikes. And and long story short, my goal was come the new year to transition fully to basically what is the lowest price bike that can handle absolutely everything. And when I say everything, I mean everything from going up to Whistler and doing the most extreme trails and going on the biggest jumps to doing cross country trails. And that's still going to be part of my channel. It's just changing a little bit. So all that to say, yeah, it's a huge thing for me. That's why I ride hardtails and love hardtails, and will continue to be a big thing. But I'm kind of in a transition phase right now. I'm kind of floating in I don't know world, which is the worst place to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, what's the driving force behind this love of the cheap bike?
Oh gosh, I absolutely despise being out on the mountain bike trail and seeing somebody who has a lower end bike that I say, man, that's a really cool bike. And the person looks at me with a look of like, why are you making fun of me? You have you have a $5,000 plus bike. You don't really think my $500 bike is cool. And that happens to me so often. And I'm like, no, dude, like your bike is awesome. You can do everything I can do. Like, don't tell yourself that in order to be an expert rider or in order to have more fun, you have to have this equipment. And that drives me crazy because the reason I took my entry-level Diamondback off the biggest jumps at Whistler and the hardest double black diamond trail, and the reason I ride it all the time is to show people, me and Robert have talked about this, it's not the bike that makes the biker, it's the person who rides the bike. Robert says it's not the car, it's the engine. That's the truth.
Yeah, it's not the bike, it's the engine.
Yeah. And that I think is my biggest core is every time we spend more money on something or buy the N+1 thing, we think it's going to bring us this amount of happiness, but once we get it, we realize it comes back down to ground level like everything else we've had.
Yeah, my man, I wanted that Bronson so bad, when I bought it, and it was just I wanted something new. I was like riding this bike that was like 10 years old. I upgraded the fuck out of it, and I think there's a part of me that really thought it was gonna, like really change my riding and really like level up everything, and I think that it didn't change how much fun I have on the trail,
Yeah.
And oddly enough, I think I've told you this before. I mean, my best time in Downeyville is still on my old bike with 26-inch wheels, so
yeah. And the reality of it all is like, Robert, your bike is awesome. And your bike was top spec 2 years ago, but now it's just it's cool. It's not top spec anymore.
Right.
And in 2 years' time, your bike will be old news, just like mine will be.
Yeah.
And that's the sad truth of it is bikes change. The feeling that you get biking doesn't.
Yeah, that's the thing. So it's like really like just get something that you're happy with and ride the fuck out of it, like just ride it till the wheels fall off.
Yeah.
And until you feel like you have to get something new. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
dude, guys on the internet that are still riding the same hardtail that they bought in 1991. you know, and they're still out there just shredding, having a good time. Like they're doing it right.
People, like,
you know?
yeah, like, and once you get to the point where you do need to buy a new bike, buy a nice one so you can enjoy the ride. Like, there's nothing wrong with buying a super high-end spec Bronson, or like for me, a super nice carbon transition. Like, don't feel guilty, don't feel bad. You're gonna use it, you know you'll love it. Like, it's okay. And that's the thing, is like, I walk this line of like, I'm obsessed with the lower end, and yet I'm the first one to drop big bucks on a bike that's gonna last. Like, it's, I feel like I'm an oxymoron at times.
I think the biggest misconception I think that I got out of buying my Bronson was I really honestly believed, and it took me selling my house to be able to buy the Bronson. Like, so like, it's not like I'm just shitting $5,000 bikes, or, you know what I mean? Like
I am, but anyway.
Yeah. And so I really felt like if I spend this money on this thing, I'm not going to be like buying any more shit. Like, I'm not going to, you know what I mean? Like with my old bike, I was like, oh, I need new wheels. Oh, I need new hubs. Oh, I need new fork. Oh, I need, you know what I mean? And it's like, I was like, man, I'm going to buy this bike and that's going to be it. Like the only thing I'm going to have to do is like maintenance stuff, like tires and chains. Right.
No. And that's the thing, is like,
it didn't change anything except for I spent $5,000 on a bike, and now I'm still buying shit every month, you know.
Dude, my transition, full carbon wheels, it is my dream build, and the day I'm done with it, I can't stop dreaming about a $2,000 YT. What is wrong with us, dude?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I'll tell you what, those marketing departments got their shit together. That's for sure, huh?
Well, I think it's just like we as human beings, like you said, the shiny ball, right? Ooh, shiny. Like, there's something in every one of us that's just like everybody has their different vice, and our addiction is mountain biking, and it's just, ooh, if I had that, it'd be so much better.
Right. Dude, I don't even listen to my own advice, dude. Like I rode the new Bronson, and I was like, oh yeah, it didn't really blow my mind. And then when I get home, the more I thought about it, was like, well, maybe I just need to ride it a little bit more. It's just ridiculous, man. It was like, what the hell is going on here?
Dude,
I swear.
I said that I demoed the Ritmo, and I'm like, this bike's so overhyped, and I still stand by that. But every time I see a Ritmo, I'm like, maybe I was wrong. I'm like, no, I'm not. I promise. I was right.
Yeah, no, it's definitely something else, man. I don't know what it is. You know, I really like that. Like, what is it that drives us that way? Is it really like the marketing? Is it really just that, like, the competitive nature and being a man, where you're just like, oh, if I buy this other thing, it's going to make me better, and maybe that's the one that's going to make the difference? I don't know. Like, I can't put my thumb on it. You know what I mean?
I can. Marketing is only marketing because it presses into human nature. At the end of the day, it's our human nature of wanting something more, better, different, something other than what we have. And that's why marketing works, is because that will always be there.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's my brain nugget. I just dropped it.
There you go, huh? That's the secret to your channel. Freaking
yeah. Well, it is, and I tell people that good thumbnails, good titles, good content, people will click.
So where would you consider yourself successful as we go around the sun again? So next year you're sitting here, like, what would define success for you on your channel?
Yeah. The unfortunate fact is, like, and I mean that, it's unfortunate that I think a lot of times success we measure in numbers. And in some ways that's stupid, and in some ways that's okay, because every number is a person, and every person that clicks subscribe is important, right, to your channel. But I think for me, I know the answer. In 1 year's time, I will be successful in the fact that if I chose to, I could make this my full-time job, and not only full-time in that I could support myself, but I would have enough income to support my family, have health insurance, and be completely taken care of through the ebbs and flows of life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I would say that would be successful for me.
So you think you can do that in a year?
Oh, hands down, absolutely.
Yeah?
Like, yeah. like and like this month was a super good month, and I think if it continues to go in the way it's going, it will continue to be really good.
What what mistakes have you made so far?
Every mistake possible. I've made terrible conclusions on reviews. I have posted more content than I should and less content than I should. I think the biggest mistake I've made is not being true to who I am. And the more I am true to who I am, the better I do. That's very generalistic, but I feel like it really sums up where I'm at.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So what do you think, what's a good example of a video that you weren't being true to who you are?
Oh, Robert, you're really pulling on my my deep thinking. This is a hard question. I'm going back to my video library.
Yeah. Got to take a trip down memory lane before you can come up to that.
Well, I know the answer. A video that isn't true to who I am is this is going to sound like it's a really like kick to a lot of people, but it's not. Is point of view footage, like just writing footage. If I had my dream, I would only post POV. Oh, I can't even talk, dude. I would only post point of view footage of rides that I knew going in I would want to share them. I, in the past, have posted a ton of point of view footage that I only posted it as like a filler video and wouldn't necessarily want to watch. And so that's when I feel like I'm not being true to myself, is when I'm posting content that I wouldn't personally go in and absorb or watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the POV footage is what brings a lot of people to channels. And I don't know how long that like format of video is gonna stick. Like that's like I feel like there will always be a place for it, yes. But I think if you look at something like, let's just say Seth, for example, his videos aren't all POV videos, you know what I mean? And
he also has no point of view footage.
Yeah, you know, and I think that if you look at somebody like Bobo, for example, his channel's done very well too. It's like some POV here, but some other stuff here, you know. And I think that to really keep your audience entertained over time, I think if it's only POV, man, you got to have something else going on to really like kind of keep people's attention.
And and the truth is this: nobody likes point of view footage. And hear me out for a minute, like, because Robert, I make point of view footage, so do you, so does everybody else. But the truth is, nobody likes it, right? I don't want to watch point of view footage of trails in Florida that may look fun, but I'll never go to. But do you know what I do want to watch? I do want to watch people who are telling a story through the point of view footage that they post.
Yeah.
Ryan is telling his point of view of going and riding the best trails in the world. And his story makes me click. Robert is a guy who is an atypical looking mountain biker, but through the point of view, I get to see who he truly is, and that brings me in. Alex gets stoked on his videos. Seth is way better than he should be for what he looks like in his physique. My point of view footage is me going off jumps and stuff that I shouldn't be on the bike I'm on. Those stories draw you in, and that's what makes point of view interesting. There is literally thousands of people posting point of view footage of their local trails or somewhere they go to, and nobody on the internet knows about it because nothing about it draws you in. It's the storyline or the personality or the person behind it that causes you to subscribe.
Yeah. I always say it's, you know, it's biking that brings them, but it's your personality that keeps them.
That's true.
Which is really interesting. You know, it's definitely not what. Once again, you know, man, I wish I could interview freaking Rob that's about to start the biker channel. You know what I mean? Like just once again, it's like one of those things. Like, what was that? What was I thinking? You know, like it's definitely something else.
The hopes were high for all of us when we got into it. That's the truth of it.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, you know, that this community that we have online with our subscribers or between us content creators that are, you know, that are chatting and stuff like that, it's just it's really something special to be part of. Even if I was a subscriber, I would still feel that way. You know, like just to be like kind of part of this group of people and getting together with them to watch their videos, or, you know, commenting and or going out and riding with these people or going to their trips or whatever is like, I think it's really cool, man. I mean, like, think about the circle of friends that you have now because of this channel or because of YouTube, or, you know what I mean? It's just like, I think it goes the same way for like the people that are on, like, that are watching as well. You know, they've gone out and ridden places that they've never planned on riding because they watched somebody's video, or they decided to take a trip to go like ride Chasing Epic with Brian, or, you know, like just things that would have never happened. And I don't know. I'm a soul believer in like life is valuable because of the experiences that you have, you know, and what makes experiences better is like doing it with other people, you know.
Yeah, and that's it, man. And that's why I think people keep clicking play and subscribing, and that's why I keep making videos. It's because, and you too, it's because of the people we meet. It's because of the guy that you meet on the side of the trail that's like, "Hey, Robert," and you're like, "Oh my gosh, is this going to be some crazy fanboy?" No, it's a normal person who likes who I am and what I make, and that's what it's about, you know. And that's what's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is there anything crazy that like somebody's told you that is like totally not true, and you're like, how did you guys get that from my video?
I don't know if I've ever had that. Like, I don't feel like people like are too far off from who I truly am. I mean, people who guess what job I have, that's probably the craziest thing that I hear.
Yeah. What are some of your favorites?
Oh, my favorite is Secret Agent, because I am, and I can't tell you. My other favorite is I'm trying to think. A lot of people think I'm a teacher, which is a very, very good guess. Besides that, a lot of people think I just do sales, like either real estate agent or some sort of like, I don't know, insurance. That's what a lot of people say, insurance. That just makes me laugh because I could totally sell you insurance. Robert, do you have a life insurance policy? Because you should have one.
Right. Especially, I mean, we talked about all the mountain biking stuff and how unsafe it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Send me your business card, then I'll know what your job is.
Oh, what? Oh yeah, and Dre from MLC Adventures, he thought I was a nurse, which is great. Yeah, and people say doctor or nurse. I don't have my doctorate. I have my master's. I'll never be a doctor. I'm not smart enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You definitely you're a pretty smooth talker, so I that's why I would go with the sales, and then I just thought the marketing thing, because you just really kind of had your shit dialed together as far as how you were doing and stuff. So, and then you just claim like you didn't know. You're like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. Oh, I have no clue. Dude, what do you mean? Oops, I got 10,000 subscribers.
People use the phrase "fake it till you make it." I'm the person who's created the phrase because I'm living in it day by day. Yeah. Fake it till you make it.
What is that? What's your favorite video that you've made?
Oh gosh, Robert, you're supposed to ask me easy questions, not hard ones. Come on, dude.
Nothing for me. It's always like, man, it's like so short-sighted. It's always like within the last one or two, you know, because you always feel like you're continually getting better.
Yeah.
So you're always most impressed with, at least I usually am, whatever I've done last, right?
My favorite video I've made is, it's probably my shred sled. It's probably my scooter bike carrier, because that was my dream. I made my dream come true, and I worked super hard on it. And every time I watch that video, I laugh, and I'm like, that's hilarious, and I want to do that. Oh wait, I did it, and that was the goal, and so that's why it's my favorite.
So do you have a new goal?
As a favorite video?
Yeah.
I do.
Something that you're really looking forward to making. What is it?
If I told you, everybody watching would steal it, because literally the supplies for it are sitting right here off camera, and the video is going to be made in the next month or two.
Right on. I have a couple that I'm excited about doing.
Well, let's share it afterwards, and we'll steal each other's ideas and make them famous.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not telling you shit, man. I need to get 40,000 subscribers, dude.
I'll steal it so quick, Robert. Nothing's new, man. I'm just remaking everything.
You're like, oh, that's so weird. I got 100,000 subscribers now. Thanks for that viral video, Robert.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, man, hey, I want to tell you, I really appreciate you sitting out here on your Sunday night with wrapping up the long weekend that most people have. I don't know what your job is, so maybe you did work. Who knows? So
I sell shoes, man. I worked all Black Friday.
Yeah, you're like Al Bundy. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Yep, exactly.
Is your wife's name Peggy?
Yep.
Dude, it's always great chatting with you. I really had a good time. I look forward to the next time that we finally get to hang out again and hit some trails together. Is there anything you want to say, people, before you take off?
Yeah, next time you see me on the Biker Bar, I'll be down in Robert's garage. So that's all I have to say, man.
Oh, is that a promise? Sweet.
Guaranteed. Oh,
I'm gonna have to invite you then here. So what are you doing next weekend?
I'm coming down, dude. I'm coming down.
Right on, man. Hey, like I said, definitely appreciate it. All you guys that are listening on podcast app, whatever it is, do a little review or a comment or something like that. So those things that help the podcast do better. If you're watching on YouTube and you've actually made it this far and you have not hit the thumbs up button, that is fucking amazing, because I don't know how you couldn't have enjoyed it if you've been here for 2 hours. If you actually have been here for 2 hours and did not enjoy that at all, you should probably punch yourself in the face. No. No, go ahead, hit the thumbs up button, hit the subscribe button if you guys really want to continue seeing this stuff. I guess there's a bell you gotta click if you really want to be notified as well. I don't understand why the bell's not clicked off the get-go and then you like go back later and unclick the bell if you don't want to get the notifications. But I mean, who knows, right? So nonetheless, I really appreciate all you guys out there. Really appreciate having Josh on the show. And I hope you guys all had a great Thanksgiving. And remember that it only takes a bike to be a biker. So get out and be one.